Hello everyone, welcome to J-Hook Crochet and More. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful halter top. This is a ruffle halter top. It ties around your neck. And my halter top has ruffles going all the way through the body of it, and the top is kind of bare, but I will also explain how to do it if you want the ruffles to go all the way up to the top. You can make this halter top to fit any size. I will explain about sizing. Mine fits a size of 4 to 5 year old, but as I've said, you can also make it for adults. There are many ways you can play with the design, and I will explain everything next. So let's move on to see what you need to make this beautiful halter top. These are the materials we're going to need for this tutorial. We're going to need any kind of medium 4-weight yarn. I'm using Caron Simply Soft in the color red, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank Robin of my international yarn swap group for sending me this yarn in our swap. I will put a link in the description box below to the Facebook page of our yarn swap group. If you would like to join, you are more than welcome to join us. And you will also need any kind of ruffle yarn that you like to work with. I am using the Kartopu Burumel Yarn. I have a yarn review of this yarn on my channel, and I will put a link in the description box below for where you can purchase this yarn. However, any kind of ruffle yarn that you have will work here. You can use sachet, you can use one of those beautiful ruffle yarns that has small pom-poms on the bottom. It's your choice, it's your design. And the amount of yarn that you will need of each of these depends on the size of the halter top that you are making. I will explain about sizing in a bit, but just so you know, it could be if you're making a bigger top, you will need more than one ball of this yarn, and definitely more than one ball of this yarn because they are only 100 grams and these don't go very far. You will also need a crochet hook, 5mm crochet hook. If you're using a bigger size yarn, it is possible. Again, I will explain in a bit when we talk about sizing. But if you alter the weight of the yarn, you will also need to alter the size of your hook. Okay, so to begin, we need to make a slip knot and chain our base chain. Now let me talk a little bit about the sizing. The base chain needs to be long enough to go all the way around the body of the person you're making the halter top for. So if you're making this for a child or if you're making it for yourself, the principle is the same, but you might want to use an item of clothing belonging to the person you're making this for to see how much you need to chain. Anyway, we chain an even number, and the number that we chain, the chain needs to be long enough to go around the body of the person we're making this for. So make your base chain and I will meet you when we're done. Okay, I'm coming to the end of round 1. Let me just finish my first round. And as I've said, at the end of the first round, you should still have the same amount of stitches as you originally chained. So I'm making my last half double crochet here, and at the end of the round we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. Now make sure you slip stitch into this first stitch here and not into the chain 1 that we made. Slip stitch into the first stitch. So this is what we have now. This would be the bottom part of our halter top. So for round 2, we're going to chain 1 And now we're going to put 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around, but we're going to put it into the back loops only. So this is our stitch, and we're only going through the back loop and doing our half double crochet. Let me show you again. This is my stitch. This is the front loop here. One second. This is the front loop here. That one. And this is the back loop right there. Here. This is where we want to insert our hook. So back loops only, half double crochet in every stitch all the way around. And I just want to show you, I will make a few stitches here, and then you can see it creates sort of a line of the front loops. Can you see this? These are the front loops that we are not going through. In this line of front loops, we will later on, when our halter top is done, this is where we will connect our ruffle yarn. So just continue doing this until the end of the row. Once again, row number 2, 1 half double crochet in every stitch, back loops only. So I'm coming to the end of row 2, and I want to show you at the end of row 2 what it looks like. So at the end of row 2, we slip stitch again into the top of the first stitch, and I want you to see this. There is this clear line going through. This is the line that is made out of those front loops that we did not go through. So you see, it pops out a little bit. That's what going through the back loops create, this line. And so from now on, our repeat will be this. Every uneven number row is just a row of regular half double crochets in every stitch. And every even number row will be just like row number 2 of half double crochets into the back loops only. So for row number 3, we chain 1 and we do 1 half double crochet in every stitch around. Then when we get to the end of the row, we slip stitch into the first stitch, we chain 1, and then for row 4, we do 1 half double crochet in every stitch, back loops only. And we continue this way until we have the right length that we want the shirt to be, this halter top to be. And how do we know when to stop? I will explain this next. Okay, this is the shirt of the girl that I am making my halter top for. I said in the beginning that if you're making it for someone that's not yourself, you might want to base it on an item of clothing that belongs to them. And this is why. We need this item of clothing not only to know how many chains we need in the beginning, we also need it to see how long to make our halter top. So let me just show you. This is what we have so far. This is what we've made. We made here the bottom. Okay? And as I've said, you will continue crocheting rows until your top is long enough, and it needs to reach under the armpits here. So the part that we are crocheting now is this part from the bottom until under the armpits. And once your piece is long enough to reach under the armpits, this is where you stop. And you want to stop on a row that is an even row, which means your last row that you crochet should be a back loops only row. Okay, so if you want your halter top to be long, if you want it to reach all the way down to your pants or your skirt, then you make it as long as the item of clothing that you have. If you want to make it a halter top, a crop top, maybe you want it shorter, maybe you want it to be this long. Maybe you want to, maybe you like to wear your halter tops inside your skirt or your pants, and then you want to make it longer. So the way you decide when to stop making the rows of half double crochets is when your piece is long enough to reach from the bottom all the way to the armpits. This part, that's what we're crocheting right now. So continue in the matter. As I've said, every uneven number row is just regular half double crochets in every stitch, and every even number row is one half double crochet in every stitch in the back loops only. And I'll meet you again once you have your piece long enough to reach under your armpits. Okay, I finished my piece. This is my first part of the halter top, measuring from the bottom all the way up to the armpits. For me, it took 26 rows of repeat, but as I've said, that depends on how big your halter top needs to be. And when you're done with your repeat rows, go ahead and cut your yarn and fasten off, and don't worry about this tail, we will hide it later on. So this is what it looks like now. Those are the rows of repeat, and as you can see, every 2 rows we have this line going through where we did the back loops only. So now we need to go ahead and start our top part. For the top part, we need to do a little bit of math. So first of all, we take the first number is the number of chains that we chained in the beginning of the project, which is also the number of stitches that you should have now if you did everything right. So for me, that's 86. I chained 86 to begin, and I have 86 stitches along here at the end, and that is the number I begin with. For you, that's whatever you chained to begin. And we divide that number in half. So if I began with 86, for me, half of 86, that's 43. And we cannot work with uneven numbers, so we're going to deduct 1 from this number, and my number then would be 42. And write that number down or just remember it in your head. And then from that number, we divide it in half again. And for me, again, the half of 42 would be 21. So we take 21, and this is the number we begin with. For you, it will be a different number if you did it differently. I will repeat this again. You take the original number of chain that you chained, you divide that in half. Take that number, and it has to be an even number. If it's an uneven number, then deduct 1, so it will be an even number. And then divide that number in half. And this is the number of stitches that we count now. For me that was 21, so this is my first stitch here where I fastened off, and I count 21 stitches. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 21. 21 stitches, and in the next stitch is where I insert my hook, and this is where we connect our yarn. As you can see, that is more or less the beginning of the front of my piece, since I started counting here at the back. Obviously we want this the line where we always chained up to go up a row to be in the back. We don't want that in the front of our work. So now it is in the back, and this is where I will attach my yarn. So we take our yarn, pass it through, and we chain 1 to attach. And now we go back to the second number that we had, which was half of the original chains that we chained. So for me, that was 43. And I'm going to make the first row of the second part of the halter top 43 stitches long. That means I'm going to put 43 half double crochets along. So that's 1 2 3, and continue doing this until you get the right number of stitches. For me that's 43, for you it might be a different number. And I'll meet you when I'm done. When we get to the end of the row, we have to chain 1 and turn. So as you can see, we only worked half the stitches, only half of them. So chain 1 and turn, and now we put 2 half double crochets together into the front loops only. So if you remember before, we worked 1 line normal and then 1 line in the back loops only. Now we will work 1 line as normal and then 1 line in the front loops only, because we are working this line in the back side of our work. We want these lines that we had form continue on the top part as well, and therefore every second row now will be in the front loops only. So we begin by putting 2 half double crochets together. We turn 2 stitches into 1. We take the front loop of this stitch and pull up a loop. Then we yarn over, go into the front loop of the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then we yarn over and go through all 5 loops on our hook. And now we've turned the first 2 stitches into 1. Now we will continue by putting 1 half double crochet into the front loop of each stitch until we get to the last 2 stitches of the row. I'm working half double crochets all along the row in the front loops only. I'm sorry if I said back loops before. Front loop only, 1 half double crochet in every stitch until we get to the last 2 stitches. Now before we go there, I want you to see we are talking about the last two stitches of the row, one second, here, those last two stitches, this chain one that we made in order to go up a row, that does not count as a stitch, only these two stitches. Okay, those are the last two stitches of the row. So put one half double crochet, front loops only, into every stitch until you get to the last two stitches. I'm coming to the end of my row, and I made one half double crochet in every stitch, front loops only, for the entire row. And here are, as I've said before, my last two stitches. And now again we will turn both of these stitches into one by doing two half double crochets together. That's a decrease, two half double crochet, that we finish all of them at the same time. Like this. So now we chain one and turn, and before we continue I want to show you, by crocheting into the front loops only, we have once again reached this effect of a line in between the rows. So we chained one and turn, and once again we will begin the row with a decrease. Now this is once again an uneven number row, so it will be just like the first row of the top part that we made, which means we crochet into the stitch normally. We begin the row by doing two half double crochets together, yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up the loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all the loops on your hook, like that. And now we continue by putting one half double crochet in each stitch until we get to the last two stitches. When we get to the last two stitches, once again we decrease. We crochet both of the last stitches together, two half double crochets together, just like we did now in the beginning of the row. And from now on, every uneven row will be like this one. Decrease in the beginning, one half double crochet in every stitch along until you get to the end of the row, chain one and turn. And every even number row will be like the row we did before, in the front loops only. We begin with a decrease, then we put one half double crochet in every stitch along, front loops only, and we decrease again at the last two stitches. This is our repeat. We will repeat those two rows until we get the length that we need. And let me see if I can show it to you a bit closer this time. So here are my last few stitches. They look a bit different this time because one of them is the decrease from the last row. This is the stitch and this is a stitch. This is not a stitch. This is my chain one. Here is my stitch and here is my stitch. Let me work one more stitch before those two so you can see clearly. Those are my two last stitches. This is not a stitch, this is a chain one. yarn over, go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all the loops on your hook. And this is a half double crochet decrease. We chain one and turn. And as I've said, the next row is an even number row, so we work in the front loops only. We begin by decreasing 2 half double crochets together, front loops only, and then we put 1 half double crochet in every stitch along, front loops only, until we get to the last 2 stitches. This is now our repeat. I want to explain to you how we know how long the second part needs to be. So the first part that we made was the bottom, and we measured all the way until under the armpit. And then the second part, we are decreasing as we go, so it will become this kind of a angled shape, and we'll go all the way up to the neck. So if I lay down the piece that I have so far on top here, this is the part we are working on now. Those are just the first few rows that I just made to show you. And I want to continue this upper part until it gets here at the bottom of the neck. This is where we will stop the second part. So we will continue crocheting rows as I've just demonstrated. 1 row normally, half double crochet in every stitch, and then decreasing at the edges. And on the wrong side we do the same, decreasing at the edges, 1 half double crochet in every stitch in between, front loops only, to get this ridge that we need in order to connect our ruffles later. And we continue this way until it gets all the way to the bottom of the neck. If you look at a halter top, we want to get to the point where we connect the straps that go around the neck. So if you don't like your halter top to reach all the way to the bottom of your neck, if you like it a little lower, then stop before. But if you like it to go all the way to the neckline and then tie directly around your neck, then go all the way up. You decide, it's your design, as I've said, but this is what you need to measure now. And the last row that you have to finish on needs to be a row of front loops only. That means we have to finish on a wrong side row. That would be our last row. So it has to be an even number of rows for the top part. Okay, I finished the top of my halter top. For me it took 12 more rows. I made 12 rows of the top part in the way that we said before. 1 row regular, then the second row going back into the front loops only. And so I finished my top. This is when I measured it against the shirt that I had. This comes all the way under the neck. And now, before we're going to move on to attaching our ruffles, we want to finish the shirt on nicely, so we chain 1 and turn. As I've said, you have to finish on a wrong side row, so that now we are working on the right side. And in order to give it a nice finish, so it doesn't look so, rough on the edges, we're just going to go around all the way here, all the top of the of our halter top, here on the sides, then all the way around the back, those stitches that we didn't work into right now, and up, back up this side until we get back here. We're going to do one row of single crochet, just one simple single crochet in every stitch along, so it will give it this nice finished look. So just go ahead and put one single crochet in every stitch along, and when you get to the sides, you just continue and you put one single crochet in every stitch on the side of the stitches. I will show you what I mean in a second. There we go, I'm coming to the end of the row. And now we work this side. These are the sides of our rows that we just worked. So I'm just gonna continue putting one single crochet into the side of every stitch. And you can just try to spread your stitches evenly. When you look at the side of your stitches, just kind of try to put your one single crochet in the middle of the stitch where possible, where you can. It doesn't have to be exact. It just gives it a nice finished edge. So you don't really have to, do it mathematically or count how many stitches you did. It doesn't really change the form of the shirt in any way. It just gives it a very nice finished look. So here I'm coming to the first row of the top part. One second, I did not go into that stitch here. And now I'm working again into the top of the stitches of that last row of the bottom part, the ones that we did not work into, the back, the ones that are in the back of the shirt. So once again, just put one single crochet in every stitch along. So just continue doing that all the way around until you get back to the corner, the beginning where you started, and I will meet you there. Okay, I finished my border and I slip stitch into the first single crochet that I made here in the corner. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chain up to make our first strap, our first tie, what goes around the neck and ties at the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to just chain up, just normally continue chaining until the strap is the length that you like. Just like that. This will be the strap that goes on this side, and then in a second I will show you how we connect the one that's on the other side. But just to be clear, the length of these varies. It depends on the size of the top that you made, so I don't want to say a number of chains, but just remember the number of chains that you chained, because we have to change the same number for the other side. So just keep count on how much you chain and chain it as long as you need in order for it to be long enough to tie around your neck. and of course leave a little bit to hang. Once you feel that your strap is long enough, just go ahead and cut the yarn and fasten off. So now if you want to have a different finish for your strap, you can use this tail that you leave to attach a bead, or I don't know, a button, or just make a nicer tie at the end. It's your choice, your design, as I've said. Now we're going to go to the other corner of the top of our halter top. We're going to insert our hook, attach the yarn by pulling it through, and chain one. And this chain of course counts as a chain, and just continue chaining up the same number that you chained for your other strap. Needs to be the same number because it needs to be the same length. Once you finish your second strap, just fasten off, cut the yarn, and hide this tail, this beginning tail. We're going to weave into the back of the top. Okay, so once you did that, we pretty much finished the body, the main part of the top itself. And it's nice. I mean, if you like it, you can obviously leave it like this. It has this nice line pattern from always doing one row in the back loops and then one row in the front loops. So it's nice this way also. If you like it, you can just leave it like that. But if you leave it like this without the ruffle, I strongly suggest to also go and make a border around the bottom part, so it also looks nicely finished. If you do attach the ruffle, you don't have to go through with making a border on the bottom part, because the ruffle that we attach will kind of go over it and you won't see it anyway. So now I will show you how we move on to attaching the ruffle. Before we begin attaching the ruffle, you have to make a choice about your design. You have to choose if you want the ruffles to go all the way around the shirt. That means the ruffles are also at the back. Or if you want them to only be in the front, which leaves then the back looking like this. It's nice, it has a pattern and everything, but I personally like to do the ruffles all the way around, because then they also hide this seam that we have in the back. But if it doesn't bother you, then you can also have the ruffle going only in the front. It's a design choice. You might think that having the ruffles all the way around is a bit much, or maybe you don't have enough of the ruffle yarn to do it all the way around. It's your choice. I'm just saying you have to make the choice now before you begin attaching the ruffles, because determining that shows you where to attach the ruffles. If your ruffles go all the way around, then we begin attaching in the back. And if your ruffles only go in the front, so we begin attaching here on the side. If you do this, that the ruffles are only in the front, I will show my top will be with ruffles all the way around. So what I'm going to show is how to do that. But I just want to explain to the people who don't want to do that, that attaching the yarn here in the front and only doing the ruffles in the front is possible. The way you do it is you start on this side, you go all the way to the other side, then you cut the yarn and you go back here and attach it again, and go back and forth like that every row where we attach the ruffles. If you remember, when we started making the top part of our halter top, we had to divide the number of chains that we originally chained in 2 in order to see how many are half of our stitches. So that number will also help you keep track on how many stitches you go until you have to cut the yarn and stop, so you don't always have to lay your top flat to see that you're on the edge of the front. Just have to know where the beginning is, and then you count the stitches, and when you get to the number that is half your original chain, that's where you cut the yarn and go back to the other side to connect it again. But I'm going to show the method that has the ruffle going all the way around, and for that we start at the back of our work. The ruffles are going to be connected, as I've said, in each one of those rows where we worked into the back loops only. So we have this line of front loops only going around. Now, I like to start the ruffles in the back, in the middle of the back. You might find that the middle of the back is not where the seam is going, because as we worked our rows, the seam always moved over and is kind of not straight at the back. So don't follow this line, because then you will also have this uneven line with the ruffles. Just choose the middle of your work, the back, the middle of the back, and this is where we attach our yarn. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take our ruffle yarn, the yarn of your choice, and your yarn that you're using might have a front side and a back side. So if it does, this is the time to find it. Mine kind of look the same both ways, although this side may not be as pretty, so I think I will work with this side like that. If your yarn does have a front and back side, just make sure that the front side, the nice side of it, is the one facing out when you do the ruffles. Okay, so here is how we're going to connect the ruffles. We are going to turn our top upside down and take our needle and place it here inside that loop from the line of back loops only that we did. So this is the front loop popping out, and this is where I start. This is where I attach my yarn. So to attach your ruffle yarn, put your hook through the loop on your top. Make sure you hold your ruffle yarn the right way, the side that you want to face outwards, facing you, like this, and pass your hook through the loop on the ruffle yarn and through. And then we pass our hook through the ruffle yarn and through the loop that's on our hook. And this is how we advance. We pass our hook into the next loop on our top, through the next loop on the ruffle yarn, through and through. And once again, next loop on our top, next loop of the ruffle yarn, and pull it through and through. Just like that. Through the next loop on the top, through the next loop on the ruffle yarn, and pull through and through. Let's see if I can do it one time closer. Here is the front loop on the top. Here is the next loop on the ruffle yarn. And we pull through and through. Just like that. And here is our ruffle beginning to form. So do this all the way around your top, and I will meet you at the end of the row. I'm at the last stitch of the first row, and I'm going to insert my hook through the loop, through the yarn, through and through. And now we're going to go up to the next row. Now, since this is a ruffle yarn, and if you've worked with ruffle yarn before, you might know that it's kind of not that easy to finish. I don't want to fasten off at the end of each row. I want to make it easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up a row and do it as a spiral. I will show you in a second how it's done, but first I just want to show you for impression. Look at that. Ain't that beautiful? We've just made the first row of ruffles. Now here you can decide if you want your next row of ruffles to go on the next row of front loops only, or you want to skip one row of front loop only and go to the next row of front loop only. It's just gonna make the ruffles either fuller or less full. So if you make the next row here, then your shirt will be a little bit more puffy because the ruffles will sit on top of each other closer together. And if you make your next row here on the next, not on the skip one row and then on the next row, then your ruffles will sit that the bottom of those ruffles will be right on top of those, so it won't be as puffy. It's a design choice again. So you can, I will show you how to go up rows, and then you can decide if you want to go up one row or two rows to make the next row of ruffles. Okay, so let's go back to the back of our work. Now to go up a row, we're going to work around the posts of the stitches. Okay, so between every row of back loops only that we did, that we now have those front loops popping up, we have 2 rows of half double crochet. So we're going to insert our hook around the post of this stitch and do exactly what we just did. Take one loop of the ruffle yarn, pull it through and through the loop that's on our hook, and then we have to go around the pole of the next stitch, 1 row over. One second, I will show you. See, it's right here. This is the next pole. So I go around it and I take the loop through and through, and now I'm at the top of this pole. I'm already at my next row of front loops. So all I have to do is go into the, sorry, this is the wrong one, into the front loop and continue as we did. So we take the ruffle yarn, we go through and go all the way around. And when we will get back here, then once again we go around these 2 poles and up to the next row. Let me just show you that one again. So above, I'm going to do it with a row that doesn't have ruffles on it, just so you can see. So you go above the row that we just worked into and into the pole of the half double crochet, and then you just do what we did with the ruffle around the poles. One more, through those 2 rows of half double crochets to get to the next loop. And then when you did that, then you are here. This is the loop that is the top of this stitch that I just went around, and then I can go into that loop and attach the ruffle normally, and then I can continue going around this row just as I did the first row. So just continue regularly around, just like that. And now we will continue that all the way around until we get back here. And once again, we will go around these 2, or maybe these 4 if you're skipping a row, and then work into the next row. And continue this way until your ruffles go all the way up to here where we started the top part of the top. You remember where we stopped going around and started going in rows? This is where you stop. So go ahead and make your ruffle all through the body of the top, and I will meet you at the last row of the body. Okay, so I'm doing the last few stitches of my last row of the body of the halter top. When I get to my last stitch, I want to show you how we fasten off. It's not very difficult. So just 2 more. 1 and 2. Okay, so at the last stitch, we want to, until now, to go up the rows, we went kind of spiral, so you don't see where each row begins and ends. But here, because it's the last row of the body, and when you wear the halter top, this is the one place where the connection will be will be visible. So what you want to do is go into the very last stitch and then go again. Sorry, let me see if you can see this. Go again into the first stitch that you went to in this row. So we will make our last stitch here. So what we are going to do is we're going to do the last stitch just as we did all the rest of them, and now it's really closed so we don't have a gap in the back. And now we need to fasten off. Now fastening off with ruffle yarn is a bit different than regular yarn, but I will just show you real quick. So what we want to do is leave about an inch. I like to go to where the next stitch would be. You see this gap here? But if you're working with a different kind of yarn, then it might look different. So I like to go to that stitch here, and right in the middle of it, I cut my yarn. And then if you look at it, I have all those open edges here. So I just kind of pinch them together and give them a small twist. So these edges we leave the way they are, but the top I kind of pinch it together and give it a twist, so I have like a little bit of fabric that I can hold on to, and then I take my hook and I try to grab this little piece that I just twisted. So it needs to like really be kind of kind of thin, so like really give it a twist until it's really firm. Okay, I'm sorry, I got a bit tangled there, so I'm just gonna do it real quick again. Twist this leftover yarn over, grab it with your hook and just pass it through that one last loop. And yes, it is hard to do because there's not a lot of space in that small loop, and that piece of yarn that we're trying to pass through is kind of big, but it passes through and then you can just pull on it to secure it. So there. Okay, and then our back, you don't see where the yarn connects. Okay. Just pull on it a little bit. Okay, and here it is. So this is our halter top. It's all ruffly. Let me just lift the camera a little so I can show you. See, this is the top of our halter top, and the whole body of the halter top is all ruffled. So nice, very pretty. I like the colors of this red, black, white. I think with a nice white bolero on top, this would be beautiful for Christmas. Very nice. Okay, so now we have the top of our halter top is still bare, let's say, and the rest of the halter top is all ruffled. So here is our next design choice. You can either continue ruffling up this part as well, or you can leave it like this. Now, personally, because I'm making this for a girl, and I think that all ruffled up might be a bit much for a little girl, I'm leaving mine this way. But I'm just gonna give a short explanation about how to continue in case you want to do the ruffles all the way to the top. So there are two ways. One is to fasten off at the end of each row, which you will do exactly as I've just demonstrated. So you connect the yarn at one edge, you go all the way through, just as we did until now. Instead of going in circles, at the end of each row you fasten off, and then you move on to the next row until you finish all the way up to the top. Or you can, at the end of the row, when you get to the edge, go up the rows the same as we did when we did the spiral around the back. Only this way, going up the rows will be done here on the side, and then you will go back the same way, and then you will on the other side again skip the rows here on the side. If you do it this way in one continuous line all the way through, what it will do is every second row on the side you will have this one stitch going up. What I have experienced from doing that is that once the top is done, it is not that visible. So because of all the ruffles all around, one stitch on the side going up a row is not that visible when you wear the shirt. It does not look obvious that you did it this way, but you should do it in the way that is more comfortable for you. If it's more comfortable for you to fasten up at the end of each row and go back and do it again from the beginning, do it that way. And if it's more comfortable for you to just keep it continuous, one continuous line, you can do it that way, and then fasten off when you get to the edge. So that's it. My top is done. I would love to see your finished product. I would love to hear from you what you've thought of this tutorial. If you liked it, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, you are invited to subscribe to my channel. There are many more tutorials to come. There are a few things already on there, and I have so much more planned, so many things in the making. So go back to my channel. You can subscribe to my channel. I will put a link in the description box below to my Facebook page. You can like my Facebook page. I do a lot of interesting stuff on there as well. You get constant updates, and I have some yarn giveaways going on every once in a while. So you're more than welcome to join that as well. And of course, please feel free to share pictures of things that you've made using my patterns, using my tutorials. I would love to see them, and I love to hear feedback. If you have anything to say about the pattern, if you have any suggestions, or if you have any questions, just feel free. Comment below or on the Facebook page, or send me a message on Facebook, and I always love to hear from my subscribers. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.